Kickoff Event. Hello, everyone. If you're here for the Happiness Habit Kickoff Event, we're going to get started in just a minute. If you are here, there's a little chat box below. You can either put in your name or your Twitter handle. It doesn't tweet for you, I'm pretty sure. Just put your name or your Twitter handle, and you can chat messages below. There's also a Q&A feature on the Hangout option where you can ask questions. There should either be an icon, or if you click on the window itself, you should be able to ask a question. Also keep an eye on my Facebook page, facebook.com/mindfitmove. So if you have any questions, you can put them on there if you have any difficulties. So I'm just going to give people a few minutes to arrive and get started. Hope everyone's having a good Wednesday afternoon. I'm really excited today to talk to you guys about these important habits that you're going to need for creating happiness, as well as some of the awesome things that are going on the 30-day challenge. So I'm just going to pop on over to the page and see if people can see and hear me. So I'm not seeing anybody in the... All right. I'm seeing a few people online. So if you can see and hear me, please just make a chat comment or something like that below. Creating happiness, as well as some... hoping people can see and hear me. I'm going to check my phone, see if my technical advisor has texted me. Yes, people are saying they can see and hear me. Yay, good. All right, great. Hello, Danielle, Brian, Dusty, and Eliz. I'm hoping that's short for Elizabeth, hoping maybe that's short for Elizabeth. So give people a few more minutes to arrive. We're on Portland time here, which means everyone's about 5 minutes late because they have to wait for their baristas to get done with their lattes, which takes a really long time apparently in Portland. All right. Hey, Barbara. Hey, Christy. Yes. Beth says yes. She can hear me. Good. Great to see you guys. Some people I know, some new people, which is exciting. Somebody says they don't see how to do chat, but they can see and hear me. So if you go to the web page for the challenge for the Happiness Habit, you should have got an email from Eventbrite. If not, it's mindfitmove.com. 30-day happiness challenge. So 30-day-happiness-challenge/happiness-habit, which I know is very long. I apologize. You should be able to. And actually, if you just go to the mindfitmove.com/30-day-happy, so that's 30-day-happy, you can find yourself to the actual page. I have a little link at the top that says live event here, and that should take you to the place with the chat. Well, Danielle says there maybe is a connection issue. Does anyone else have a connection issue? Can everyone else see and hear me? With the obligatory 5-minute technical problem period. So hopefully people can see what's going on. Anybody else? Connection problems? Back on. Okay, we're good. All right, so hello, Snuffle Muffin. It's a great screen name. All right, so you've waited the obligatory 5 minutes for us to get started. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in. So some of you are here just for this happiness challenge, just for this happiness webinar. Some of you are here for the greater challenge, and that's totally fine. You're going to get an opportunity at the end to sort of sign up for the challenge if you want. Just to give you a quick overview of what exactly we're going to be talking about. So today we're going to talk about 4 main habit areas. They're the same habit areas that the happiness challenge will cover. So these 4 habit areas are essential to creating happiness in your life. They are awareness, self-care, simplicity, and relationships. And so we're going to give you an overview of some of these practices so you can get started. And if you're in the challenge, you're going to get a chance to practice with these daily. You're going to get individual attention. I'm going to respond to questions that people have, and you'll be in the community. And if not, you can take these and practice with them on your own, no problem. And then I'm going to give you an overview of the 30-day challenge, kind of what the challenge involves, if you want to join, if you have questions. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about, what each day will look like and some questions that people have been having about how it's going to work. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give away some prizes. To win one of the prizes, you actually have to be on the call on this webinar with me. And I'll ask people to raise their hand. So if you're like, oh, I need to leave 5 minutes early, please stay till the very end because that's when I give away the prizes. And if you don't win a prize, I'm still going to have an offer so you can get access to some cool things like my 5-minute-a-day meditation course, as well as some one-on-one time to work with me about how you can create happiness in your life. Okay. So to start off, why is it that I'm here talking about happiness to all of you? So some of you know a little bit about my story, but I'm just going to give you a brief background for people who don't maybe know as well what's going on with me and what I've been working on. So I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, went to college at George Washington University, studied philosophy. And then I left school and worked in the music business for a long time. And while working in the music business was great, a lot of my life was about really seeking very short-term ways to create happiness. So just having adventures and going out and drinking, and I smoked a lot of pot and chased after women, and it was all like very about immediate happiness. But after several years of this, I really found that although the immediate happiness was fun kind of in the moment, maybe that night I was having a good time, overall in my life, I actually wasn't that happy. I wasn't that satisfied. And so when I lost my job when I was 28, I realized that if I really wanted to create a life of meaning and happiness for myself, I needed to do something different. And around that time, I met a guy who had been living in a monastery, and he invited me to join his meditation group. So I joined the meditation group, and I did my own little 30-day mindfulness challenge. I did a meditation group, I did a weekend retreat, and then I did a month-long retreat, all in about the space of 30 to 45 days. And it impacted me so powerfully that I decided I need to invest some serious time into learning about this approach to happiness. And so I ended up moving into a monastery in Northern Oregon for a couple of months. At least that's what I thought. And then I actually ended up staying about 2.5 years. So I learned a lot about myself, what I needed to pay attention to, and what created happiness for me at the monastery. And then when I left the monastery, I knew I wanted to take the things that I had learned and teach them to others, and learn how to take these things and put them into action in people's lives outside the monastery, because I know not everyone can go away for 2 years and learn what I learned. And so I started working with people one-on-one to help them create happiness using the tools of mindfulness and habit formation. And I've spent now about 2.5 years really understanding and trying to figure out what is the system, what are the habits, what are the really simple skills that people need, the foundational skills that need to create happiness. Good things and bad things can happen in your life, but if you don't have these foundational happiness skills, it's very difficult to create lasting happiness in a way that really helps. So that's what I'm going to talk about. And so that's why I'm here. Now, why are you here? So you're here because you want to be happier. And it's funny because a lot of times when I talk to people about happiness, they say like, oh, well, you can't really work on happiness. And happiness is just something that happens to you. And, my experience is that that's just not the case, that people who wait for happiness to happen to them wait a really long time. So you're here because happiness has a lot of positive benefits. Happy people are more successful. Happy people have better relationships. Happy people are more confident. Happy people do what they love more often. And most importantly, happy people are happy. And so it's not a state of being. It's not just I'm going to get there and that's it. It's not a destination. Happiness is a daily practice. And so this class is really about teaching you those fundamental happiness skills. And as I've worked with people, the way I developed this list of these essential skills and these phases that I'm using in the challenge is I went out and looked at the obstacles that my clients and that I had in developing happiness. And I looked at why are those obstacles there and really trying to understand them. So some of the obstacles you might be facing to happiness, one of the big challenges that I've seen a lot is that people are unsure or disconnected from what brings them joy. So you might notice that you're like this if you're always checking your phone, if you feel anxiety and you're always checking your phone or Facebook because you're seeking connection. You might feel like this, when you want things to be perfect because you're afraid if they're not perfect that they won't be good enough, which means that you aren't good enough. You might feel this way because there's a sense of emptiness or something missing in your life. Maybe it's you're not seeking your dreams or going after the career you want. Maybe it's that you're not fully invested in your relationship. And finally, you might feel like this because you feel like you have to always prove yourself to other people, or maybe even prove yourself to yourself so that you know that you're a good person. And maybe that's especially one you can relate to because it's one that I have had a lot of clients really struggle with in their lives, is that need to prove themselves, needs to show themselves that they're a good person, that they deserve to be happy. And so I'm going to teach you some skills of awareness or mindfulness and talk about some ways in which you can better understand yourself as well as overcome some hidden obstacles to happiness, discover or rediscover what brings you joy, and feel good about who you are and what you do. Another one of the obstacles I see people face is that they are stressed out, worn out, or burnt out. Hopefully not the last one, but most people I meet are definitely suffering from the first one. And this may be an obstacle for you if you find that you never take time for yourself, that you feel guilty when you take vacations or you relax, that you always put other people's needs ahead of your own. You feel like it's, you got to be a martyr. And especially one of the things I see a lot for people who are this stressed out, worn out person is that they really look forward to that glass of wine at the end of the day. And maybe they look forward to it just a little too much. They don't necessarily have a drinking problem, but it's like, I don't know how to relax. I don't know what to do, but this glass of wine is my respite. And it's not that there's anything wrong with wine. I think having a glass of wine a day is a perfectly reasonable thing to do if you do it in balance. But it's when that's your only strategy, that's your only respite in the day and in your life, when that starts to become a problem, because you want to not get to the point where the only thing that can save you is drinking a glass or a bottle of wine, where you're feeling balanced and healthy and happy, so that the glass of wine is a little cream on the top. And so I'm going to talk to you today a little about some tools you can use to create self-care in your life, which is going to help you learn how to take care of yourself without guilt. Create some simple habits around dieting and exercise, and learn how to talk and treat yourself with care and respect like you deserve. Another challenge that I see people really face is that they're overwhelmed, disorganized, or live in a really cluttered environment, which has a really big effect on your mind. So if this is your challenge, you might find that you're always losing your car keys. You feel like you're always running maybe 5 to 10 minutes late. You look at your closet and your storage, and you're like, I don't know who put all this stuff in here because it wasn't me. I don't know where this stuff is coming from. And maybe your living room looks awful and you feel like embarrassed having guest overs, or your car looks like a daycare center, or maybe you just feel like you just have too many things to keep track to. And maybe that's especially one that you can relate to, that I've just got so much to keep track of, I don't know how to keep track of it all. And so I'm going to share with you some simple tools about how to create simplicity so that you can simplify your commitment, so that you're doing more of what you love and less of what you don't have, less things that you have to do, that you should do, and more things you really want to do. And also a couple simple ways to simplify your home as well as maybe your digital life, so you can find what you need when you need it and not be afraid if someone just drops by that you have this embarrassing place that you don't want anyone to look at. The last obstacle that I see people really struggle with is relationships, and relationships are really important. So, maybe your relationship with your family, or relationship with your partner, maybe your relationship with your workmate, and you really struggle with the difficulty of those relationships. Maybe you're not sure how to talk to difficult people, or wish that you could find a way to connect more deeply with an old family member or a friend, or maybe even your partner. And this one may be especially one you relate to because it can be often difficult to really connect with people that matters. I was listening to a great podcast the other day, and he said that people report that 60% of people in America don't feel like anyone's got their back, which is a really disturbing statistic. And so having that connection is something that's really vital to create happiness in your life. But a lot of us didn't learn those really basic communication skills, but how to connect, how to deal with conflict. And so I'm going to share with you some really simple communication so you can learn how to respond to criticism without getting riled up. You can learn how to collaborate instead of arguing, or maybe argue effectively, and learn what to say when you don't know what to say. And then also be able to ask for what you want in a way that's more likely to get heard. Sheila asked if I've been reading your diary. I have not. These are just big problems that I have dealt with and a lot of people have dealt with. It's a really big struggle. And so I want to get right into this content of some ways that you can start creating change in these lives. And I've created a little presentation. I'm going to try to toss it up on the screen here. Pull up the right window. So I'm going to do a screen share here. Okay. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the happiness habits, and I'll pause after each section if you have, I'll pause what at the end of each section if you have any questions, and I'll take questions. Okay, so first off, let's talk about the happiness habits. So I kind of went over them very briefly. We'll kind of go over them each one by one and talk about how you can put them into action in your life. So the first happiness habit is awareness. And for us to really understand what awareness is, I think it's helpful to create a definition. So awareness or mindfulness is simply the ability to pay attention to what you're thinking, feeling, and doing. That's all awareness or mindfulness is. It's not having a completely silent mind. It's not being perfect at every moment, paying attention to every blade of grass. It's just the ability to notice what you're thinking, feeling, and doing. And the way that we use awareness to create happiness is we use this paying attention, this ability to pay attention, to take action and create changes in our lives. So to choose new things to focus on, new things to think about, or new actions. Or maybe to understand ourselves better so we know kind of what we want out of life. So how do we do it? So there's some key habits within the awareness habit group that are really important. And if you take the 30-day challenge, we're going to go into a bunch of these habits much more detail, but I'm just going to kind of give you a broad picture. So the first key habit to awareness is meditation. If you're going to learn to pay attention to what you're thinking and feeling and doing throughout the day, it's helpful to develop that skill when there's as little distraction as possible. And that's the primary purpose of seated meditation. Now, a lot of people think that to do seated meditation, you have to be, seated perfectly in this amazing posture, and your mind has to be quiet in this perfect environment. But the truth is, you can meditate on your couch, you can meditate in your bed, you can meditate a lot of different places. The real key to starting a meditation habit is to keep things really simple. To not get overwhelmed, to not try to do 5 million hours of meditation, not just try to stay perfectly quiet, forever, but just to do it very simply. And also to remember that you're not doing it incorrectly. So the big skill of meditation is to notice when you become distracted and to come back to focusing on whatever you want to focus on. So your focus could be a candle or your breath, whatever you want to focus on. Your number one job is to return to that focus of meditation. So you can't really do it wrong. If you only notice that you're thinking one time during your meditation and come back, that is success. So creating a very simple meditation habit that you do daily or weekly can be really helpful at creating the space you need to have the awareness to learn about what makes you happy. Now, at the end of the webinar, I'm going to give people an opportunity to win a prize, specifically a 5-minute-a-day meditation class, where I took everything I learned about meditation and put it into a class that you can do the meditation in just 5 minutes a day. And in 4 weeks, you'll have a pretty solid meditation habit. And so if you please hang on to the end, I'll offer those prizes to people who are still hanging out. So the second key skill to awareness is a daily or weekly reflection practice. So reflecting on our lives, reflecting on the things that are going well and the things that are going poorly for us is a great way to get the space to see what's working, what's creating happiness for us, and what isn't. Often the things that bring us the most misery are the things we don't want to look at. And so by creating a container of practice to focus on what we need to reflect on. To create a container of practice, focus on what's important to us, you can find a way to be satisfied and to be happy with what's going on, as well as identify things that are keeping you from being happy. So that's really simple to do. All you got to do a daily or weekly reflection practice is to get some questions or open up a journal and write a little bit about how your day is going. And during the happiness challenge, I'm gonna have some very specific prompts, but you can just make up your own prompts if you want and try some different ways, looking at what makes you happy. What are you grateful for? What's a positive event you might have in your life? These are all things you can include in that journal. Just doing these two things, so doing meditation and creating awareness, will help a lot when it comes to creating the awareness that you need. Creating the awareness that you need so that you can find the things that make the most happiness in your life. Okay, so that's awareness, meditation, and daily reflection. So now let's talk a little bit about self-care. So self-care, the biggest problem that I see when people think about self-care is that they think it's selfish. And self-care is not selfish. Self-care is actually compassion that you show to yourself so that you can show compassion to others. If you don't fill up your compassion fuel tank, if you don't fill up that ability to be kind to yourself, then it's very difficult, much more difficult to be kind to other people. There's this idea that if you self-sacrifice and just help other people, that's going to make you, this wonderful, kind person. But in reality, if you don't learn how to take care of yourself, if you don't learn how to give yourself the space and the kindness that you need, it becomes very difficult to give it to others. And things like resentment and self-doubt and confusion can start to seep into what's going on for you. And so the best way, the key habits around self-care are a couple really simple ones. The first one is a self-care list. So all this is you sit down with a piece of paper and write down all the things without judging good or bad that you can do for self-care. So you might write down, get a massage or get my nails done. I've got my first mani-pedi 2 months ago. It was quite relaxing. I enjoyed it very much. I'm not sure the nail polish color was right for me, but little things of self-care like that, very traditional things, but think of other things that might reward you as well. So maybe taking a walk in the woods would be self-care. Maybe sitting down to watch an episode of your favorite TV show is self-care. Drinking a glass of wine could be an act of self-care. Spending time with friends. Doing something you like doing, like knitting or writing, those could all be types of self-care. And so make that list and notice the ones you rely on and the ones that you don't rely on, and try to expand that list. Because what I find is that what people do is they come up with a couple of very simple self-care strategies and they focus on those things. And they tend to be this sort of emergency self-care strategy. So, zoning out and watching the Kardashians or drinking a glass of wine, as opposed to paying attention to things that matter to you more, or taking a walk in the woods, or making time to spend an afternoon with a friend. Those kinds of things that take a little bit more planning, they get forgotten about. And so the self-care list will help you identify those things that help you create self-care, as well as the things that maybe you rely on too much that you need to kind of tone back on. So that's the first key habit. The second key habit is to be gentle. So one of the things I noticed that my clients struggle with is that they're often very kind to other people, but often not very kind to themselves. So you have to be aware of when you're having these sort of negative thoughts or negative feelings, and the way that you're talking to yourself when you make a mistake. And begin to develop the habit of talking to yourself with kindness. Right? So to bring up that other voice. So when you have that inner critical voice that says, oh, you're a jerk and you failed and no one's ever going to love you, to counteract that voice with the kindness of, actually people are very nice to you and actually you're a very good person, and to bring up that other kind voice, or to focus on something else that makes you feel kind and gentle. So to focus on the sound of the wind outside, or to focus on your meditation. Those are all ways to talk to yourself kindly. In addition, treat yourself as a valued client, a valued customer, a valued friend. Ask yourself, if I was my own best friend this week, what would I want my best friend to do to take care of themselves? So if you imagine that, your best friend is tired and stressed out, you would be like, oh, they really deserve to go, take a day and relax, or they really deserve to have an afternoon off. Then give yourself that afternoon off. Treat yourself with the same kind of kindness that you would treat your friends. Okay. Now, the third key area is simplicity. So simplicity is very tricky for people because we live in a very, very complicated world. And so people often don't really know what simplicity is. They think simplicity must mean, just having your organized email and such. So here's a kind of working definition of simplicity we can use. All simplicity is knowing what's important and creating space for it. And this is true both in your physical world, your digital world, as well as your sort of personal or emotional world. In your physical world, if you don't know what's important, important things get lost. So your car keys are obviously important. Your house keys are obviously important to you. But if you have so many other things that you can never find them, then even though you know those things are important, you don't have the space for it. But often you have valued items that you aren't really prioritizing, you aren't treating with the respect they deserve because you've got so much other stuff. So it's realizing, like, these are the things I really care about. These are the things that matter to me. This is my favorite t-shirt, my favorite sweatshirt. This is, these are the items from my family I really want to keep sacred. And this other stuff is junk that I can give away. So knowing that discernment, having that wisdom to know what's important. And then the second piece of it is the compassion, having the compassion you need to create space for it. So simplifying your physical space is really an act of compassion. Now, this is true of your digital world too. You need to know which emails are important, which digital tasks are important, and you need to find a way to create space for them in your life so that you don't miss important emails, so that you don't miss important appointments. And the last thing is relationships. You need to know what important relationships are to you. Your relationship with your partner might be very important, your relationship with your family. And are you spending time with people who maybe aren't as positive, aren't as important with you, because they make you feel popular or cool, but they aren't actually helping or feeding your life in any way? And then having the compassion to create space for those people that make the biggest difference to you, instead of spending time on things you should do or obligations when that's not what you're really moved to do. And so there's a couple key habits for simplicity that make a big difference. So the first one is my hell yes litmus test. And if you've paid attention at all during any of my stuff, you maybe have heard this before, but basically this is just a way to test. Do you want to do something or do you want to buy something? If when someone gives you an opportunity to buy something or to do something, you can't say hell yes about it, then it's a hell no. And the idea behind this theory is that if you're not super excited about it, if you're not pumped about it, you probably shouldn't be investing time into it. And so if you're not super excited about volunteering for that opportunity, getting involved with those people, then don't do it. If you're not super excited about a sweater or a dress or a pair of shoes or a pair of pants, don't buy it. Life is too short to invest time into things that are not a hell yes. Now, does that mean that there will be things that you're going to say hell no to? Yes, that is absolutely true. There will definitely be things that you're going to say hell no to, and that's perfectly fine. And in fact, the cooler you are, the happier you are, the more amazing your life is, the more things that you're going to end up having to say hell no to, which is wonderful. Okay, so that's the first habit, say hell yes. The second habit is a physical or digital decluttering habit, and that's picking one space. So the mistake I see people make a lot is that they try to declutter their entire homes, their entire digital lives over the course of like one day or one weekend. And they get into it a little bit and it's this overwhelming, crazy task, and they get tired and they wimp out and they stop doing it. The thing that I have seen really successful when people declutter their homes or their lives is to work slowly, space by space, to reduce the amount of things they have. And really this is a practice that you learn because if you want to stay decluttered in your physical space or digital life, you have to keep doing this. And so this practice is you just pick one space, and you may have a space that creates the most peace for yourself. So for me, I really like it when the kitchen counter is clean. When my kitchen counter is clean, I feel great. I feel like my house is clean. There actually can be crap every place else. My bathroom can be dirty, my desk can be cluttered, my bed can be unmade, but if the kitchen counter is clean, when I walk by it, I just feel good. So figure out whatever that one space is for you and start there with working on decluttering. Maybe, for you, it might be a digital space. It might be your email. Work there on decluttering. And if your email is overwhelming, just maybe pick one inbox to declutter. But just pick one space and start to work on it just a little bit every day. Work on it for 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. Maybe do a big chunk to do an organization, but spend time to really invest and make sure that space is clean every day. I spend about 5 to 10 minutes every evening taking everything off the counter that doesn't need to be there and wiping it down, so that I know that that space is my sanctuary, even when I don't have time to clean everything else in my house. Okay, so if people do have any questions, go ahead and chime in. I'm going to keep going because I know there's quite a bit of a lag on this. So now we're going to talk about the fourth area, which is relationships. So why are relationships so important? Relationships are important because they teach us about ourselves, and it smooths the edges, the rough edges that we have. So much like river rocks, when we rub against each other, no pun intended, the rough edges that we have are smooth. When we're by ourselves, we don't notice all the little nests we make for ourselves, all the little places that our ego get out of control. And so because we don't notice those things, it's very easy to get caught up in our own preferences, our own opinions about what's going on. And so relationships really teach us how to smooth those edges off and how to connect with people. And so that's why relationships are so important. Now, you may be thinking, like, I don't have a romantic partner, or my relationship with my partner is great. So this applies to all relationships, not just your romantic relationships, your work relationships, or your relationship with your family. We all have relationships in our life that can help us grow as people. We might also have relationships that are toxic that we need to get rid of. But often those relationships that are the most powerful, that are the most life-changing, really do challenge us to be better people. And those are the kinds of relationships that I'm talking about. So as before, there's a couple key habits around relationships, and especially communication, because the number one problem that I see people struggle with who are in relationships is a difficulty communicating, hearing complaints or difficulties from the other person, and expressing your own wants and desires. So the first key habit, and it's a habit that is talked about in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's in a lot of great books and self-help stuff is to hear first. So often when someone talks to us, we feel like we need to respond. That's the first thing we need to do, is we need to respond. And that people want a response, that if someone says something to you, what they really want is a response. And that's a mistake. My experience that I've found both as a coach and as a friend and as a boyfriend and as an employee and as an employer is that most of the time when people express something to you, the first thing they want is to be heard. And they want to know that they've been heard. They don't want to have to guess. It's the reason why we use so many nonverbal cues like nods and eyebrow raises, that to indicate to other people, I hear you, I understand what's going on. And so it's important when you're interacting with someone, especially if it's an important relationship, that you really hear what they have to say first and foremost. So, and the way that we do that, the way to do that mindfully, is to hear by reflecting. Now, there's a great deal of subtlety that you can develop in your ability to reflect. It can be, I've learned how to reflect feelings and needs in a way that often people don't notice unless they're paying attention. But at first, that might be very clumsy, right? So at the base level, you want to just practice reflection by just repeating back what the person said to you. Your friend might come and say, oh, my boyfriend John is being a jerk. He went to the game last night and it was our anniversary. I can't believe he did that. Oh, so you were really upset that John went to the game instead of going to your anniversary. It's just that simple. You just reflect. This process of reflection not only lets other people know that they're being heard, but it also gives you a moment and the space to respond without slipping into giving advice or slipping into collusion or other things that don't really create connection. And often it'll elicit more information, which might be what you want. So they might go, yeah, it really upset me. He always does this to me. And so you can really develop connection and get in deeper just by reflecting with people and really build positive rapport, especially when you don't know what to say, which can be very hard in situations. So that's the first main skill, to hear first. I have a question here. What if you're trying to make time to communicate, but your partner is always too busy? So too busy is a very interesting term. You know, too busy means that you haven't created the space to meet the need that you have of communicating. So part of the way you can practice communication if your partner is too busy is to make a very direct and specific request about that. So say to them, you know, hey, I really want to spend some time connecting with you. I really want to understand and know what's going on in your life. I want to make sure that we can work and collaborate together. Could we set aside 30 minutes on this day to sit down and just talk and just check in? And then use that opportunity and, you know, and see what they say. So make it a request. It can't be a demand. It can't be, we're going to sit down tonight at dinner and we're going to talk about how to communicate, because that won't work. You have to make a request and then negotiate about what that time is. And if they say, you know, oh, I'm just too busy, again, practice reflection. Oh, so I'm hearing you say that you're really busy. You're not sure you have time to connect, you know, around this. You know, how can I honor the time that, and then you can just ask, how can I honor the time that you have and also really make time for us to connect? And if you reflect in that way and give them empathy, you're much more likely to be able to have that space to connect with them. We're also going to work on some very specific skills in the 30-day challenge about how to do this. So if you hold on to week 4, I know it's 4 weeks away from today or 3 weeks away from today, but we're going to work on some very specific practices about how to do this. So I'm going to move on for now, but that's a great question. So use the skill of connection, use the skill of communication to create the time you need to communicate. The second real key is to communicating effectively is to use empathy. So often if your partner says like, I'm too busy, so often people say that, you know, I'm too busy, you can get very reactive and you could say something like, oh, you never have time for me, or you never make time to talk to me, or I'm clearly not important to you. And when you say something like that, it's obviously not going to create connection because they're going to get defensive. And so when that happens, when you hear a question or hear something that gets reactive, you want to give the other person empathy first. And then once you give them that empathy, then you can have time to talk. So if they say they're too busy, you say, oh, so I hear you saying that you're stressed out or that you're too busy. That must be hard for you to be stressed out. And so you just reflect and maybe add a little bit of like guessing what their feeling and need is. That's all empathy is a reflection with a little bit of feeling and need added into it. So to offer empathy, and then especially to not do 2 things. 1, don't get overly reactive if you can avoid it. And if you do, you can forgive yourself. And 2, don't offer advice. That's the biggest mistake I see people make. So the partner will say to them, you know, or their friend will say to them, you know, oh, I've got this problem with my boss at work. He's being a real jerk. And then we jump right into, oh, well, here's what you should have said, or here's what you should have done. Now, advice is a very simple thing to do, but the problem is, you know, like butts, everyone's got a butt and everyone's got an opinion. But usually when you're in crisis, you don't want an opinion. What you want is a little bit of empathy. You want to know that the person has heard you. And so by reflecting back to them with a little bit of guessing of feeling and needs, or a little bit of, wow, that must be tough. One of the phrases I use a lot when I'm working with people who are having a bad day is, that sounds tough, because it's just true, right? Sometimes things just sound tough and you don't know what to say, but it feels good to hear someone else say, yes, I acknowledge that that is difficult. I acknowledge that it's difficult and I'm here with you, being present with you while you're difficult. Before I get off this, Jordan asked a question along the same lines. What if your partner lives far away? Again, it's a matter of creating time and space to have communication. So that may be one of the fundamental skills. And I actually didn't include that in my original outline for the 30-day challenge, but maybe I'll add that in because that's seems like an important issue for you guys. So it's making sure you set aside time to communicate. So I've had a lot of long distance relationships. In fact, the majority of my adult relationships have been long distance because I travel a lot and I'm great at meeting girls who like to move to other cities right after I meet them. I don't know how that reflects on me as a man, but whatever. I have a good sense of humor about it, so it's okay. And what was important in those relationships is that we always made time to connect. So I tried to call them every day, and then we made sure we spent, you know, maybe 30 minutes or an hour talking about things. And there's some great books you can get to prime your conversations, or you can write questions on pieces of paper. You can try creative ways. But the most important thing is you set aside time for the specific purpose of communication, where you talk about the things that are most important to you. And often, if you're having difficulty having those longer conversations or talking over the phone all the time, it's because you haven't practiced these skills. It goes back and forth. Someone will say something and then you just don't know what to say. And so if you practice reflection, giving empathy, it'll deepen the way you're communicating with other people. Okay, so now we've gone over the 4 kind of habit areas in some essential ways. And so now I want to talk about the 30-day challenge and how we're going to dig deeper into this 30-day challenge. And if you haven't signed up, you still can. There's a sign up form. You can go to mindfulmove.com/30dayhappy, and you can mindfulmove.com/30dayhappy, and you can sign up for the challenge as soon as this webinar is over. Let me tell you a little bit about how the challenge is going to be structured. So here's what I did when I created the 30-day challenge. I took everything that I learned from 2.5 years of experience living at a Zen monastery, meditating 8 hours a day, doing week-long silent retreats, working with 2 renowned Zen masters, taking classes on mindful eating and communication and nonviolent communication and dealing with the inner critic and everything else, all of that experience, as well as everything I've studied personally over the last 2 years about habit formation and how to make happiness a part of your daily life. I've taken all of that and I've broken it down into 30 simple tools, 30 simple challenges that you can take one day after another to really create these foundational skills you need to have happiness. And so what that is going to look like is you're going to get a daily email, and I'm going to make a vow to you right now, which is a little scary for me, which is that you're going to get that email in your inbox every morning on time. So I'm not going to do this on the fly. I'm going to stay ahead of the emails. I've written several posts in advance, and I'm making a vow to you right now because that's a great way to make yourself accountable. Every morning in your inbox, you're going to get a new email with a challenge. And so here are what the challenges are going to contain. They're going to have 3 elements. So the first element is going to be some type of practice. So it's either going to be something to focus on for the day, something to think about, or something for you to actually do, a journaling activity or a daily reflection activity, something like that, some physical activity. That's going to be the practice. The second thing is going to be an element of reflection. So you're going to pop my screen back on here so you can see me again. You're going to take a little bit of time to reflect on what you learned. What did you get out of this exercise? What did you like about it? Just a little bit of time to think about it. It can be 5 minutes, it can be 10 minutes. You do the practice, then you reflect on it. And then the last thing that you're going to do with every challenge is you're going to share with others. You're going to share with others by making a public commitment. And you're going to say, I'm going to change this about my life and do something new. Or you're just going to share something that makes you happy, because when we share what makes you happy, it spreads that joy to others. You're going to share because it's going to help create community. We're going to see what other people are sharing. We're going to see other people getting involved. And I'm going to do my best to comment on people's things, to respond to blog posts, and to do other things so that if you have questions or concerns, you can get those questions answered. And so I'm going to ask you to write a blog post, to write a social media post, or at very least to write a comment at the end of every challenge, sharing what you learned that day. So we can do this together as a team and do this together as a group, because you're going to be way more successful if you do it with other people. On top of the daily emails, which are going to give you a ton of value, I'm going to do some weekly prizes. So some random prizes, some based on how I see people participating. So if you were just like killing the challenge every day, I want to reward that with something special. I'm going to be giving away, e-courses that I've created, e-books for myself and other people, as well as some other cool prizes that I haven't even mentioned and talked about. And then at the end, I'm going to give away some really big prizes. So I'm going to give away a coaching package with me that's worth over $2,000, where we're going to be able to work together one-on-one to create happiness in your life. And we can deal with any of the problems that you have. So if your area is awareness, if your area is self-care or relationships, we're going to really get to dig in deeply to those problems. And it's really one of the most valuable things I can give to people, and I want to give people an opportunity. On top of that, at the end of the challenge, I'll give you an opportunity to sign up for a coaching package if you don't win, at a discounted rate, so that if you committed to the whole 30-day challenge, you get a deal there as well. On top of that, I'm going to be giving away some fitness trackers, some books, some other little things, but the really big thing is that coaching package, because I'm just amazed at the results people have. And so how do you sign up? You sign up by going to the link above. There should be a link above this cast. You can buy a ticket on Eventbrite. That'll add you to the list, or you can just email me if you're confused by technology, though I don't know how you'd be watching this webinar if you were, but you can always email me if you have problems with any of the other systems. I want to answer some questions that people have that have come up a lot about the Happiness Challenge and how to keep doing it. And so some of the questions that have come up is, do I have to do every challenge every day? And the answer is no. In fact, you shouldn't try to keep each of these habits or challenges going every day, because if you do that, you're going to go crazy. So the challenges will build on each other. There's going to be things that you're going to do in blocks. Like the first week, we'll be working on some journaling, and you're going to add a new item to your journal every day. But some of the things you're going to drop away, and that's perfectly fine. If you only do about 20% of this stuff, if you only do about 20% of the things that I put in the course, you're going to get huge results. I have literally packed it so full of stuff that if you miss 80% of it, if you like kind of zone out for a week and just lose a week of it, you're still going to get a ton of value. So you don't have to do it all. In fact, you shouldn't try to do it all. This is just my best effort to give you a ton of stuff to work with. And then you can always go back and pick up the pieces of stuff that you missed and want to get later. Okay, so what if I miss a day? That's no problem. I would really advise that you try not to miss 2 days in a row. So what I've found from my own studies of habits has been that if you miss one day, that's not a big deal. But it's when you start to miss 2, 3, and 4 days that you really fall off the wagon. So make a public commitment to doing the challenge, get an accountability buddy, post on the group, email me, whatever you want to do. Create some sort of accountability system for yourself and promise yourself you're not going to miss more than 2 days. The other thing you can do is just start every week new. So if you fall off of 1 week and Wednesday, you get really busy and you lose it all, you can just start new with the next week, go back and review the stuff when the challenge is done. What if you don't like a particular challenge? So if you don't like a particular challenge, you can just skip it. You could pick another challenge or do a challenge that you make for yourself. If something doesn't apply for you or you already do that thing, we're going to talk about gratitude journaling. If you already do that, you can just do it again, or you can go back and work on another challenge. Why do I have to write and share? So people have been like, oh, I don't want to write about this. Why do I have to share? Well, there's a few really important reasons why sharing is a powerful part of this challenge. So one, it gives me feedback to know what's working for you guys and what isn't. What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? What are you struggling with? And that way I can help. If you have difficulties and you don't share about those difficulties, then I can't help you, nor can anyone else. And I would love to be able to help you make the most out of this challenge. The other reason is that sharing publicly makes things very real. So when you set a goal internally, that can be quite powerful, but when you tell other people about that goal, that increases the likelihood that you're going to do it. In fact, they did a study that said that where people actually lied about their GPA. They asked people what their GPA were, and they found when people publicly declared that their GPA was higher than it actually was, even though they were being dishonest, that public declaration actually encourage them to increase their GPA, that those people that said their GPA was higher actually align with that public statement. So when you say, these are the things I'm grateful for, these are the things that are important to me, just that public statement makes it more likely that you're going to connect with it. And the last thing is that one thing my teacher used to say is insight and 25 cents will get you a cup of coffee. Actually, that's not true because coffee costs a lot more than 25 cents. But through this challenge, you're going to see a lot of insights. You're going to see a lot of things about yourself that maybe you don't normally see. And if you don't make a public declaration of what's going on in your life or what's important to you, if you don't share, if you don't take some active, if you just read the challenge and maybe do the practice, but don't do any of the writing or doing any of the sharing, you're really going to lose a lot of the benefit. It's not enough to see clearly what creates happiness in your life or what is holding you back from happiness. You have to take action to make it real. And that's why the sharing element is so important. What if you miss an email? So if you miss an email, all the posts are going to be online. You can go back and look at them, and I'm going to leave them online for people on the challenge. I'm going to leave the special page up for people on the challenge if you want to go back. And so they'll be in your email. And plus, at the end of the week, I'll send you a little archive of all of the posts so you can go back and check in. Okay, so I'm just going to peek over and see if anyone has any questions about this, any confusions about the challenge. We already have like 275 people last time I looked who signed up. So they're going to have a lot of good company. Liz says that her issue is with the public statement is that your inner critic tells you no one cares, believes in me, and that you'll fail. Well, let me tell you right now, Liz, that I care. I care a lot. And I know it may feel like, oh, well, you've got 300 people. Why would you care about me? I didn't care about myself for a really long time. I didn't really care about my life. I cared about, kind of having fun, but I didn't really care about my life. And so I know what it feels like to not care about yourself. And I know that also can lead to you feeling like other people don't care about you either. But the truth is that what I've discovered in myself and in other people is that we care way more about other people than we let on. We're afraid to reveal that vulnerability because we're afraid that if we reveal how much we care about other people, that they're going to reject us and they're going to hurt us, that we're going to be made fun of and mocked. But the truth is that people do care about you. People that you don't even know care about you. And I can tell you for sure that I care about you. And that if you commit to doing this challenge and you share what you have with people, and if you don't feel safe doing it on social media, you can do it on the comments, And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, share with me personally. Send me an email. That if you share, that I will pay very close attention to what you offer and very close attention to what your struggles are. Because I do this because I want to help people be happy. Because I don't want anyone else to spend 28 years of their lives or more chasing the things that don't lead to happiness. Because I didn't appreciate my life, and I'm not going to let other people not appreciate their lives. Because your life is the most precious gift that you have, and you have to appreciate it. And so I care. I give a big crap about everyone on this challenge and everyone I meet. That's why I do it. In fact, my life would be much easier if I didn't care so much. So I understand that you have that inner critic in there, but I would really encourage you to be brave and to share and to see what it's like to put yourself out there. I think it's going to be a beautiful gift to you and a beautiful gift to everyone on the challenge. So thank you for asking that question. Okay. So that's the 30-day challenge. Please sign up. Please participate. If you fall off, that's okay. Get back on wherever you can. Now it's time to give away prizes. So if you are here and you are interested in one of these prizes, what I want you to do is just type your first name and your initial, if you can, in the chat box. If you are not chatting or have a problem chatting, you can also shoot me a quick email, info@mindfitmove.com, or post to the mindfitmove.com Facebook wall. I'm also going to keep track of that. So I'm not following my own rule of simplicity. I should probably not be monitoring 3 things at one time, but that's okay. So again, just shoot me an email or post on the chat window. I'm going to wait and give people a few minutes. If anyone else has any questions, I can answer a question while they're there. Okay. Somebody asked, is this page where we'll go to share things with other participants, or is there another page I'm unaware of? So there's 2 places you can go to share things. Great question. So you can share on the comments of each post. Each email will link to a post, and on that post you can share in the comments. You also can share with hashtag 30dayhappy, as well as on the MindFitMove page. You can post your shares there. If there's demand for it, I will create a Facebook group. In fact, I'll go ahead and create a Facebook group and send it out to everyone. That's another place you can post. I've been dragging my feet on that because I wanted to keep things simple, but I'll go ahead and create a Facebook group for it, and I'll send that link out to everyone afterwards so you can share on that. Okay, getting some entries in here. As well as got a few entries via email. Let me double check. So the best way to share, let me recap. The best way to share is to write a blog post. Do a blog post about it. And if you have a hard time starting a blog, send me an email. I can send you some resources, but super easy to do. Go to wordpress.com. You can start a blog. It'll take you 10 minutes. And then you're going to write in that blog and link to my blog, link to the blog post in that blog, and that'll show up, or post a link to your blog in the comments. I'll be sharing those blog posts with people on social media, as well as responding to them. That's the best way. You're going to get a little bit of time to write. You'll get a little bit of feedback from me. The second best way to share is to share on social media. So either on Twitter or Facebook using the hashtag 30dayhappy. So I'll be keeping track of those, responding to them, and sharing those to other people. The third best way to share is to share on the comments on each post, or on the Facebook group, which I'll start here tomorrow or today. I'll go start it right after this thing and invite people to it. So I'll start a Facebook group, which will be open to the public. The comments is probably the most private way to share, and the most public way to share is obviously to do a blog post. Any other questions about that? Please let me know. Got a few more entries coming in here. Okay, I got a thumbs up from Snufflemuffin. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to give away is I'm going to give away 5 keys to my meditation class, my 5 meditation class. And I have given people's names numbers, and I'm just going to give some of those away. So Brian F, Sheila A, CV, Christy, and Beth, you have all won one of those challenges. So what you need to do to collect your challenge is to shoot me an email, info, I-N-F-O, @mindfitmove.com, and say, and just type in there, you know, give me my 5-minute meditation course, and I will give you all the information to sign up. I do that because otherwise I'd have to have you type in your email address, and I don't want you to do that. So again, that's Brian F, Sheila, Christy, and I forgot to write one of these names down. I believe it's Beth was the other person who won. Okay, that's the 5-minute meditation course. All right, so now I'm going to give away the one copy to the Zen Habits book that I have. Zen Habits is a great book by an author named Leo Babauta, who's a friend of mine. I contributed something to a later on chapter in the book. And so the winner of that is Miriam Hoffman, who sent me an email for offline. So I pulled that from my email one. So Miriam Hoffman, you have won the Zen Habits book. Yay. Congratulations. It's a great book. I'll send you a digital copy. I do have to warn you, you have to wait. I actually haven't gotten the book yet. So sorry that your prize is delayed, but it'll come as soon as it gets released to the public. I'll send it to you. So don't worry. I'll keep track of that. You won't have to. And the last thing I'm going to give away is I'm going to give away 5 of these happiness wake-up calls. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the call before I give it away. So what it is it's one of the most valuable things you can win, because it's 30 minutes of one-on-one time with me to identify 3 areas of happiness in your life that you can focus more time and attention on, as well as 3 things that are maybe holding you back from what's going on for you. So 3 things that are kind of keeping you from being happy. And I've seen some amazing results from this call. So I've seen people leave their parents' house, move to a different city, and get a new job. I've seen people make huge decisions about relationships and about career paths based upon these calls. I've seen people come to great clarity about, you know, what they wanted to do with their lives, all in just 30 minutes. Because it's amazing when you invest just 30 minutes of time into accessing your own wisdom, how much clarity you can see. So these 30-minute calls are super valuable, and I wish I could give one to everyone, but I can't. And so if you don't win one of these calls, I'm just about to do the drawing. If you don't win one of these calls, I want to give you guys a special offer. So I'm going to post a link to this page immediately after the webinar where you can go and click on it. And if you don't win the call, I'm going to give you one of those calls for only $27. Normally I charge about $100 for these calls. It's about 30 minutes of my time, but I'm going to give it to you for $27. And the reason why I'm doing this is I don't want you to just use this one webinar and kind of go, this is great, and forget about it. I really want you to take action to make happiness a part of your life. And so doing this call is a great way to do that. So if you win, great, you get it for free. And if not, that's totally fine. You can go on and get the call for $27. So keep an eye on this page. I'll post the link up right at the end. I'm not doing it now so you don't get distracted. So now I'm going to draw the names for the people who won that call. So first winner is Lisa Newcomb. I want to make sure I'm writing this down so I don't forget. Lisa Newcomb, you're our first winner of the call. Number 2 winner is Deborah Carberry. D. Carberry, or Deborah C. The third winner of the call is going to be Ryan W. Ryan W. All right, I only got 2 more left. I'm using my random number generator here. All right, the 4th call is going to go to CV. You already won the meditation thing. That's okay. I'd put your name in there again. So CV, you're going to win again. You're getting both. Red letter A for CV. All right, let me generate my last number here. See who gets it. Got a countdown. Okay, Eric Lewis. Eric Lewis. So if you're one of those 5 people, I will try to identify and find your email, but the best thing for you to do is email me, info@mindfitmove.com. Again, that's info, I-N-F-O, @mindfitmove.com, and say, I want my call, and I will send you information about how to schedule it, and we'll get it scheduled really soon. So it's 1 o'clock, and I want to make sure we end this on time. So again, thank you so much for joining me on this webinar. Today, your challenge is to just think about this webinar, reflect on it, and if you can, share the webinar or share something you learned on the webinar with your friends or family. Share it on Facebook or in the comments below. I'm really excited to share these simple habits with you because happiness isn't just something that happens to you. Happiness is something that you can create. And if you learn these simple skills, it's not just going to have an impact on you. I mean, I would love to just help, 30, 40, 300 people change their lives. So what I've seen is that when you are a happier person, that happiness, that joy spreads out to everyone around you. And so even though the things that you work on may be personal and may feel like they don't affect a lot of other people, that one little extra smile, that one bit of kindness you show to yourself or someone else has huge ripple effects. And so I think we all want to change the world with our lives. We all want to have a big impact. And at the monastery, I took a vow to help all living beings find freedom from suffering, to find joy, and to find lasting happiness. And this is my way of helping people do that, by sharing these happiness habits with you and by having you put them into action in your life so you can be happier and spread that happiness to other people. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Thank you for investing an hour of your time to creating happiness. And I really look forward to spending the next 30 days learning about what makes you happy, helping you with your difficulties, and teaching you these really fundamental skills that I know are going to have a big impact on your life. I'm so grateful for all of you. Thank you for watching. And if you want a prize, please collect it afterwards. Thanks so much.